Hi, I'm Nate Speare. I'm a practicing astrologer and astrological researcher, and I'm here to give you a little forecast of the cosmic weather we're experiencing this week. Basically, we should brace ourselves for some drama on many different fronts, especially involving our political activity, the political landscape of our lives, and also our core relationships, the way we're deeply relating. We have a few major things happening. One is that the north and south node are making a challenging angle to Venus. So we have the overall theme of this challenge is the destiny of relationships, or the destiny, the destined way that we're deeply relating. So the ways that we're communicating with people in our relationships, the ways that we're experiencing beauty, the ways that we're experiencing heartfelt connections may undergo this week a sort of deep sense of that something is really happening with them, and that something is feeling almost destined or fated, not with the sort of capital letters or a sort of grand scale necessarily, but like there's a sense this week that situations involving our relationships have a feeling that they're almost happening to us, and that there is a kind of quality of that of necessity, that they need to happen. And chances are they're this kind of like juncture of point of evaluating what has happened in the past with these people in our lives, and that they will have what happens this week could have some consequences and repercussions for what's happening in the future. Doesn't mean that it'll be very heavy, but there's a huge sense this week that there is a lot of feelings like destiny surrounding who we are most deeply relating with and why. Because that's what the nodes are about. The north node is what we're trying to master, what we're trying to rise to. The south node is what we've mastered in the past. So either way, we're dealing with, the path that we are on, the core path that we are trying to learn about. And so that carries with it a sense of destiny. So these questions about why is this happening, and why does it feel sort of familiar, and why does it feel either totally uncomfortable and new, or why does it feel strangely deja vu, like I've experienced this before in another life maybe even. So that's something to watch out for. We also have Venus, of course, again, the goddess of beauty and of deep relating. We've got Venus conjunct right up against, holding hands with Saturn, the lord of structure and karma. Saturn, as the lord of structure and karma, demands clarity and authenticity. So that also means that in our ways of relating together, if we have certain relations that are not genuine or that are kind of inauthentic, Saturn, that is demanding clarity, is going to expose the inauthenticity and lack of genuineness of those relationships. And this could really have a ripple effect into our political scene. We're already here, seeing all kinds of drama regarding the election, regarding our candidates. They've been calling each other out on BS all over the place. But in fact, this week could present to us the notion that that's just kind of a veneer, that actually this week, what they could be called out on is totally different from what they might have expected or what we might expect. So we should kind of brace ourselves for that possibility, especially because politicians are very Venusian. They're very, they like to charm, they like to maintain harmony. But let's look at the ways Saturn demanding clarity, demanding integrity and structure, saying the way you're doing that is kind of BS. And so we should be on the lookout for politicians being on their toes and really getting turned upside down, especially in the US presidential election. Now, the flip side of that is that the really grounded relationships that we have will experience a kind of resurgence of strength this week, and we'll really feel the groundedness and genuineness of those authentic connections, because that's what this Venus-Saturn conjunction is likely to reward. And now the sort of really, really big thing we have that can create a kind of bumpy, tumultuous ride over the course of the week is we've got Mars, the warrior, squaring Uranus, the revolutionary. When the warrior challenges the revolutionary, we've got the freedom fighter. So we have this spirit, again, rippling a lot into our political landscape of like the revolutionary freedom fighter. Again, in this way, we can see the political drama really escalating this week. Things could get violent even. So we do best to like breathe deep and stay true to our ground and stay true to our own values and remind ourselves of what we care deeply about. We could be seeing accidents, car crashes, so certainly be mindful of your transportation and of traveling safely. We could see fires, we might hear more sirens than usual. And really this challenge between the warrior and the revolutionary that's creating this feeling of a freedom fighter. We should really think of it as like an inner freedom fighter, right? This inner sort of rebelliousness and ready to grab life by the horns. But if we can sort of turn this urgency toward a more reflective end, we may look at it as this. It's asking if we are building off of the foundations that can hold our current desires and aspirations. Are the foundations that I'm building off of right now strong enough to hold my desires and aspirations? And that's manifesting for each of us in a very individual, unique way. But that's really the core question of this, because Mars in Capricorn is like really dealing with foundation and with the power to persevere, to build off of certain foundations. Uranus, the revolutionary, sometimes knocking right through those foundations and like crashing through the boxes that it's saying, no, that's not freeing and liberating enough for you. You need to be willing to be a little more uncomfortable and uncertain if you're really going to live according to your values. So we've got the foundations that are comfortable, the structures that are comfortable, and the discomfort that is nonetheless in service of our greater sense of freedom and values. And so when this happens, we are very likely to experience a lot of inner discomfort, agitation, even anger could trigger past things that have wounded us or really angered us. And the inclination as human beings is usually to be reactive. So either to turn aggressive towards others, it's your fault, you did it, hey, next time I see him, or to turn inward against ourselves and like really get all self-aggressive. I'm not good enough, I'm terrible, I suck, I shouldn't even bother with this is not the right thing to be doing anyway, what are you thinking, and to kind of beat ourselves up about things. It's really, the challenge this week for us is to neither explode nor implode, but actually to just breathe. And in breathing into it, we can actually sit with the urgency. We can feel that urgency and make room for the new insight that's coming in. Because here's the key about that new insight. The sense of urgency is different from what we expect our urgency to be directed toward. But when we make room for this new direction of urgency, that making room for it inside becomes strength. So it's about making room for this new urgency, not lashing out at our loved ones or lashing out against ourselves and beating ourselves up. And this is really what's going to lead us into the new moon in Scorpio next Sunday. We'd be best advised to wait until Sunday to name our intentions. Sunday when the new moon occurs, to name our intentions, to kind of like let all of this urgency, potential drama, wrestling with the authentic, the inauthentic, all of this, especially in regard to our relationships, and also being aware of it on a larger scale in our political and global and economic climate that we're in, to kind of let this wash over us. And the key to making room for that new direction of our urgency is not feeling like we need to make a hasty decision. So in other words, being able to experience that urgency of Mars and Uranus, the freedom fighter, and not need to act on it impulsively right away, but to feel it course through us, breathe into it. And then on Sunday, we can kind of visit how it's like, oh, how, on Sunday, oh, how has the end of the week gone? How has the weekend gone? Then, since Sunday's the new moon, we can set our intentions to go forward. And we'll have some more in-depth discussion on the new moon for next week's forecast. But with that, I'd like to leave you with this forecast, and I'm going to release another day or so a guided meditations to help us ground ourselves through all of this, sometimes craziness. There's always a special brand of craziness. This week it just happens to be the ones that we talked about. So if you have any questions about this, about how this is affecting you personally, please definitely reach out to me. I'm happy to talk about it. And this has been this week's astrology forecast. Thank you very much for tuning in.